David Leonard from the Earth Medicine Institute here outside of San Antonio, Texas. I am here with Sam Coffman. Sam is a tremendous herbalist. He has a school here outside of San Antonio called Herbal Medics Academy.
That's correct, yeah.
And I just took my first class with him. I've been taking classes online for, about 6 months or so, 4 to 6 months. But this is the first time we met in person, and we just did a wilderness first aid class, which was incredible. So, welcome, Sam.
Thanks. I'm glad you made it down here.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. Tell me about what you're doing here. What's your vision? What's your mission? Like, where are you at?
Yeah, I think the best way to describe it actually would be that there's a base of a pyramid that we have all the infrastructure aspects. So, I can start from the beginning. For the engineer, it is our intellect. It's our relationship between our sentience and how we get through the day as to problem solving and who we think we are, like who we think we are up here in talking and working. So all the things that we do probably 90% of the day in terms of working through the day, problem solving and all of that kind of thing.
And that's air?
That is the air, that's right.
Yeah.
And then the next one up is fire, which is the body. And it's our relationship to our body, and that is how we help the body and how we hurt the body. So very much, again, coming from kind of an Asian perspective on martial arts and healing, being two sides of the same coin. So that's the medic, and that's why we're doing like the combat medic next weekend. And we start off with qigong, and we end up with swinging at tactics and fighting with guns.
Right.
Everything in between. And then for the next one up from that is the earth, or the element of earth, and that's the provider. And that used to, like I said, be the hunter. We used to have like a primitive hunter-gatherer and an urban hunter-gatherer, but we kind of merged those together into the provider. And then the final is water, which is the scout, and that's our relationship between ourselves and both our mind, so not our intellect, but our mind, as well as sort of that human mind. In other words, social construct and who we are socially, social engineering, understanding how to work socially, and also who we are collectively as a species. And this is also on the feet on the ground scout stuff, of course, is working with communities, being able to assess and get along, and not only get along but become friends, or give that feeling of trust that can grow between yourself and the community that you're trying to help. And then there's a fifth element that is the unspoken element. It's in the logo, but it's not. I don't talk about it, and that's the element of man or spirit, and that's kind of the realized full. All four have come together. So the logo is a DNA strand, basically, with those 4 or 5 elements all the way up.
Nice.
So plus we have this whole Austere program, which you're taking part of, right? Which that's how do we put all this together in kind of an emergent care situation where we are the only, we're the only caregivers, and it's only, we only have what's sustainable. We don't have an endless supply of pharmaceutical medicine. We don't have an endless supply of higher definitive care. What do we do and how do we do it? Yeah, so I was in the military twice, and the second time for a total of about 10 years, and the second time for about 6 years in Special Forces as an 18 Delta or Special Forces medic. And then I got out, and then I did. I was trying to make the school work both part-time and full-time during that period of time. That school, this property dropped right and flat straight into my lap.
Interesting how that works, huh?
Right, and so then I thought, now it's time to do the school. It's like I did.
So the vision of the school, when you first started to now, has it changed a lot, or is it pretty similar?
It's very similar. I think the structure of it has changed a little bit. I really modeled this a lot. It wasn't meant to be. It wasn't a conscious idea, but it was really kind of modeled just on my own experience, which was the Special Forces Forces team.
Right.
So Special Forces team has basically 4 different what we call MOSs, or you could call specialties, I guess you could say, or jobs. And in that, if your enlisted folks in the team are going to be an engineer, they're going to be a commo, they're going to be a medic.
Commo's communication.
Yeah, communication, sorry.
Right.
So engineer, commo, medic, and then weapons. And it wasn't, I wasn't trying to copy that, but it just fit. It's like, what do we need in order to be able to have a medical team that can do all of these things, but that also is self-sustainable and is using primarily, maybe even exclusively, herbal medicine. And these were the paths that just started to come together. So at that point, and that was even before we moved to San Antonio, I already had that vision in my head. I literally tattooed our logo up my spine, my back, the center of my back, like probably 18 years ago. So I mean, the vision was all
Really?
then.
For Herbal Medics Academy?
That's correct, yeah.
Wow.
So the idea, and I had come up with runes. I mean, I literally spent years like meditating and working on these, what are the runes?
It's
I
like
came up with,
sympathetic magic, and then
runes.
you put it on your body, and then it manifests.
Exactly.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
That's very much what kind of happened, yeah.
Yeah.
And so this vision here, I would say, at the beginning, I taught everything. I was teaching everything from atlatl and primitive bow making
Wow.
to to herbal medicine and doing plant walks and first aid and slow sand water filtration. I was doing it all, and it was about a mile wide and about an inch thick.
Right.
And then it was, the biggest demand by far was herbal medicine. That was huge, and it started to really pay for everything else. So that's when I realized, this is what I do. This is my part that I can do in this vision, is to really become a good teacher at this and become better at it myself, and constantly expand my own herbal medicine abilities, clinically, not just by learning something in a book, but actually, using it consistently. So that's when we started really. So now I would say the herbal program is probably about a mile deep, whereas the other programs are maybe about a half mile deep. I mean, everything else is catching up slowly.
So I have a question about, there's a paradigm when you're in the military, obviously, where you don't stop for anything. You have the mission, you have to complete it. There's a flip paradigm where you kind of pay attention, relax, and go with the flow, right? Would you talk about those things in your life, those two? Are you more one now, more just now? More one, more the other? Any thoughts about that in terms of pushing or just standing back and waiting?
Yeah, I think age has made me realize that I'm better off. Like the things that have happened, the events that have happened in my life are so glaringly obvious that I'm supposed to be at a certain place in a certain time. And the feeling I've had, the intuitive feeling I've had in me that this is either right or this is wrong, has also been always very glaring. Whether I follow that or not is a whole different thing. It was almost like my mind was out in front here, and it didn't matter because my intuition was saying, no, that's not where you're supposed to be. But eventually they both caught up. But I'll tell you, I mean, things happen over and over and over again that tell me that this is intuitively the right path, right?
Awesome.
I mean,
so you shifted from that sort of driven at any cost to what's going on in me, and where do I go from here?
Yes, I think so. I think one of the issues that I had a lot too with the school to begin with was that I really put so much effort into it, and nonstop. I mean, it's a 24/7, 365 kind of approach. And if you'd asked me like 5 years ago if I'd ever thought, even 5, let alone 12 years ago, if I thought I'd burn out, I would have said, oh, no way, never. This is, but now, as of about 2 years ago, I was on the road a lot teaching this class, and class, because it was a great idea kind of culminating and pulling in marketing. It was a great funnel. And about 2 years ago, I just really hit the wall, and I've been kind of trying to recover since. And I realized I have to have input too, and so slowing down, listening to my own body, listening to what's going on around me, has been a gradual process that I would say has been kind of beaten into me. But at the same time, the glaringly obvious things that have happened over the years, even this land, like just getting this, not just falling in my lap, but there was a legal situation that happened, and I was kind of a third party. I had nothing to do with the legal situation, but I was this third party, and it basically ended up here. But even like I had to have a certain amount of money available, and I didn't. Like I say, we had my financial stuff. The company that my wife worked for fell completely apart, so we were scrambling. And when we first got here, I had a little extra money, and for the first time in my life, this is just a funny story to tell you about intuition. For the first time in my life, I thought, I've got a little extra money, and I've always kind of been curious about like penny stocks. Like, I mean, it's one of those things you can either make a lot of money or you
That's some games, right?
Right. I mean, it's like, let's try
Pork bellies.
So I threw a couple $1,000 basically I had to do into this thing, and I didn't want to just throw it in there. It's like I had a friend who had started up this.
Sounds like penny stocks.
Right. Right. Well, it was out of Wyoming, and it was a biodiesel. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Biodiesel. So it was a biodiesel company in Wyoming that seemed to be doing really well. And I thought, well, this would be a really good kind of green thing. It's kind of like what my ideals would be, my vision. So let's get green with our fuel. Of course, that's one of our biggest issues as a species, certainly in our culture right now. So I put them into there, and it was like everything you could read about this company was like it was going skyward. They had invested in a whole bunch of different types of plants, and like about 1 million acres in Brazil that was just completely decimated, and they were regrowing it.
Wow.
I thought this is really a good thing to put money in. Even if I make nothing, I put $2,000 into a good project, right?
Yeah,
That's the way I felt about it. So I go down and I get on one of these online things. I'd never ever done anything to do with stocks before in my life. I had no idea what I was doing. But I got online, did it, and they said, well, you got to come down your first time and pay with a cashier's check. So I go down there, and there's one of those 4-digit like tickers that's an identification for this particular company.
Right.
Whatever, XYGZ or something. So I give them that number and everything, and I get back, and within a couple hours, I'm like, well, how's my stock doing?
Right.
Let's get online. I get online, I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And I'm like, this isn't what I bought, is it? I'd switched 2 of the letters around.
Oh my
So
God.
I literally invested in something that had nothing to do with that, right?
That's great.
So I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? I just threw it. And I'm like, so it turns out I invested in this company. You're gonna laugh that their entire company was based around finding submerged gold and submerged ships in the Caribbean.
Talk about chasing rainbows, right? Wow.
So I like, well, oh my God, I just lost $2,000 for nothing, right? I didn't even invest in the company. I thought I was doing a good thing for the world, but I just threw it away.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, let me find out something about this company. So I go and I look, and the only article I can see is like about 6 months old, and it says such and such company is got a hole in the ship and taken on water fast. I was trying to remember, like the little pun headline, right? About them. So I'm like, well, forget it. So anyway, about a year goes by. And I needed to put some money down. It was some time. Like, this whole legal thing had come to a point. And they said, "Look, this is going to happen for you. You're going to get this land. This is it. But you're paying the legal fees for us, and so we need a down payment of such and such." I'm like, God, we don't have. I didn't want to borrow money. It's like we were kind of still in a tight spot. I'm lying there at like 1 a.m. one night, and I think, whatever happened to that money? So I go look it up. And they had just like developed some kind of a sonar thing like the week before, literally like less than a week before, like 7 days or 6 days before, and their stock had just skyrocketed. Wow. I mean, for penny stock, right? It was like 0.0001 cents, and now it's like 0.01 cent. Right? So I'm like selling, like I could sell like 2 million shares of stock, and I'm just like sell. So it turns out, so I sell. I mean, as I'm selling, like the price is dropping just from me selling the stock, right? So it turns out like I needed. So I ended up like tripling the money after tax, and that was almost exactly to a dime.
That's fantastic.
What I needed for this land.
That's fantastic.
And my wife is like, if you didn't understand this before, you hopefully understand it now.
Wow.
So
that's great.
Yeah.
So that was following your intuition no matter where it went, including picking the wrong stock.
Yeah. Sometimes it's almost like there's this higher self. I always think of just like you need a little help here. We're going to give you a little help.
That's great. Well, and what advice would you give to somebody else a young person, say in their 20s, that wants to follow the human path? What would you tell them?
I say that the things that you do now in your 20s and early 30s are anything you do now, you're going to reap rewards for tenfold when you're in your 40s and 50s. So do the hard work now, right? I mean, especially if you don't have a family, get out there and do the hard schools, do the hard work. If you're going to go in the military and get trained that way, and it's definitely not all it's cracked up to be, but the training is amazing.
Yeah.
But you got to pay your dues. If you want the better training, usually the more dues you got to pay. But whatever it is you do that you're going to get trained at, go do it and get it done and get the hard work done in your 20s and early 30s.
Awesome. Cool. Have there been any events in your life that at the time you thought of as really negative, that now you feel like are a blessing? Anything that's happened that you thought was really bad?
Yeah, there's been several things like that. We've had, I could point out many, many things that we've had going on over the last, since we started the school. We're unique. I mean, there's nobody else in the world that's doing what we're doing at all.
Yeah, absolutely not.
And so we've had a lot of copycats. We've had people that have come that have been friends. We thought that maybe they were friends at the time even, but then the tide turned and they were haters. And, it's really sad, the people.
That is sad.
We've had that.
It's a cheap shot.
It totally is. And we've had those kinds of really negative things. But what I wanted to say with that is not dwell on those negative things. Every time it happens, always something really, really good comes from it. And the way that happens is we don't dwell on it at all. We don't
Right.
I always tell my wife, I feel like we're moving down the center of this river, or maybe we're kind of close to the banks here and there, and there's branches of trees or people reaching out trying to grab us.
Right.
And if we stop and we grab, we're stopping and we're creating the big eddies around us. Just don't do that. Stay on the river and keep our heads down and do what we're doing. And
Awesome.
when we do that, I mean, within a week or a month or even a day, something will happen and be like, wow, I am really glad that person actually did that.
Yep.
Because when they did that, they opened up this that would never have happened in any other way.
Interesting. Yeah, fantastic. Where are you going? Where's the future going to take you, do you know?
Yeah, so I personally, like I said, I'm really burnt out, and my wife is too, and we're both going to get some more certifications in education. So I'm going back, as you know, I think already going to acupuncture school. I'm going to get.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, I'm going to start in January. Yeah.
Where?
Here in town. There's
cool.
Texas Health University.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's like a 3 years in a few months, to get
Great.
that.
Great. That's interesting because, I was just saying to a friend the other day that Sam has it's the herbal system that has been very unique for me. I've never heard anything like it before because I'm so used to TCM and naturopaths talking about herbs. And this is something that I want to learn. So you're going into that with this, honestly, this incredible base knowledge. It's going to be interesting to see what happens when they pull your head inside out, right?
Yeah,
But it's nice because you can look at things from different perspectives.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, this is a really interesting system that Sam is teaching, and I'm actually really looking forward to learning more of it.
Great, yeah, and we talked about Peter Holmes, and I've been kind of a hobbyist, I would say, like just dabbling in TCM or just Oriental medicine.
Energetics.
Yeah, energetics, and coming from that particular energetic system.
Yeah, Peter's, it's going to be even more interesting because I was thinking last night when you were talking about your system, it reminded me if somebody took Peter's system and made it very clinical.
Yeah.
Like you talk about the nutritives and things like that, you know? Yeah, that's interesting because the only place I've really heard that before is from him, and he does a synthesis of Asian and his own style, Asian and Western medicine.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he even pulls in like wise woman and a little bit of indigenous and certainly traditional
aromatherapy, a lot of aromatherapy.
Oh yeah, that's kind of his bag.
Yeah.
I think he wrote these books before he kind of got big in aromatherapy. I mean, he was doing it. He used to live in Boulder, and I actually went and saw him once in a seminar there, and it's just always amazing to me how a person can have the kind of mind that he must have to be able to pull all that information in and, just like you say, synthesize it into this sort of almost a new paradigm, a new system.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's a lot of people that like TCM purists that don't like that,
right?
And for whatever reason. But I think it fits very well, models very well over kind of a Western pathophysiology approach as well.
It does, yeah. And Peter's obviously a visionary, and I find what he does best. Well, two things. One is he takes Western concepts and applies them to energetics. So it's Western energetics essentially. And the other thing he does really well is he'll take a whole plant and describe it in layman's terms in detail, like at the end of his, of each plant when he does that.
Yes.
And there'll be a description of it that really embraces the whole plant. I really like that.
I do too. I love how he does that because there'll be an energetic term or two, but there'll also be some sort of a Western relationship to that.
Yeah, and medicine evolves.
Yeah.
That's medicine,
Exactly.
and culture evolves. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even medicine evolves, not only does medicine evolve on its own, but medicine evolves within a system of health is constantly changing.
Exactly.
As in, first world problems right now in this country are totally different than problems that we had 100 years ago in this culture, or problems that you would find right now in on the east coast of Nicaragua, or you find anywhere. So we have all these different sort of base sets of epidemiological patterns that are related to modern day issues around whatever maybe toxins and stress and lifestyle, along with food and the soil and all of those things that are going to change exactly how we actually use medicine. So some of those herbs and if you go back to like eclectic writings and that type of thing in the 19th century, the things that they're writing about in there, they may have been very true then, but they may not translate very well.
Right, exactly. I mean, there's more hygiene and there's antibiotics and interaction with pharmaceuticals and all that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I remember talking to an elderly at the time, this was probably over 20 years ago, TCM doctor he'd grown up in Taiwan, and he said he had come over to America like maybe 10 years earlier, and he said he felt almost overwhelmed, like how he had to change he's like, a lot of these things don't exist. I haven't seen a lot of these things, and how we actually even look at it.
Exactly. Because I know they call them Xiaoyang syndromes in the States because there's so much stress. They don't see those kind of illnesses in China. They do. Now they do probably. When you see a patient, what do you have a procedure you go through? Because you're well versed in Western medicine and herbal medicine.
Yes. So we generally run our clinics are done on a like a 15 or 20 minute intake, really fast. Soap note. So all of our clinics, I don't even do my own clients anymore. It's pretty much all people who've come through the system. So
okay.
So we have like
people that you've trained.
Yes, so we have students that are more advanced clinical students that will do teleclinic, they'll do it on the phone if it's not somebody.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
and we have our clinics on site here in San Antonio. Then we do our clinic weeks in places like Navajo Nation and other places all around the country. We used to do them in other countries as well. And so the students, what ends up happening is there might be 2 or 3 or even 4 intake tables going on at a time, throughout a room, and students are taking that intake. And this basically is just so subjective and objective is what they're focusing on. And then I sit down, and I usually within 5 minutes, is about the amount of time I allot myself. So I'll talk, and so this doesn't seem like as much time, but if they've already gotten a little bit of history and a little bit of a little bit of what's going on there, chief complaint and how things are moving and what they're trying to get, what they're here for, then I can usually within about 3 or 4 or 5 sentences or questions kind of narrow things down to the point that I feel like we can at least start working on some of those outer layers of the onion. I feel it's really unrealistic in any clinic where you're dealing with 50 people a day or people who are really underserved, and especially people who are poor.
So you do a lot of work with underserved.
A lot, and most of I would say is most of our
majority,
vast majority.
Interesting.
So we just they're not gonna. A lot of them are living in food deserts. They have really low income. You can't tell them to just go gluten-free and dairy-free and get off sugar. And
why aren't you eating organic?
Yeah, why aren't you eating organic? And you need to do more of your yoga classes every day. And, so what I do is I start at that outer layer and I say, okay, look, what would help you the most usually, or where are you at with this or that? And here's what I can do. It's going to make you feel a little better. And here's what I would like you to do in return. If it's helping you, then maybe you could consider changing this part about your diet or this part about your lifestyle.
So you do one thing and you give them one thing to do.
Give them one thing to do, and then they come back in a month or 2 months or whatever the next clinic that they can make it to, and they usually, anybody's coming back. I never have negative follow-ups. Occasionally I have to maybe tweak something, but generally it's just people coming back saying that worked. I'm happy. I'm happier. I feel better this way. What next? Now what?
Cool.
So we kind of do that 2-hour intake.
You build on
for 6
success.
months. Yeah.
Building on success.
It's a lot more. I think it's a lot more effective.
Oh, really? Absolutely. Yeah.
Plus, you can work through a lot more people in a day, right? You get 50 people in a clinic or 100. Yeah, we've done 100 people a day in a clinic with a skeleton crew, and we can do that. It's busy and it's a 12-hour day, but it works. You can do it.
Great. Any books that okay, two questions. One, any books that you would really recommend for people wanting to learn herbs? Besides Peter Holmes, I know his work. And then also any books that you have given to anybody, like that you really loved for whatever reason that you've given away.
Right. I think one of my favorites from kind of looking at the herbs from the standpoint of with the reductionist versus the phenomenological or energetic standpoint maybe, or it would be Wade Davis's book, One River.
Nice.
So I really like that book.
Yeah. Awesome.
Because it shows the transition of this person. Plus, it shows a lot of the history, the horrible corporate American history in Central and South America.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing book that way. And then just for just pure reference type book for the beginner, just starting, that's inexpensive. Unlike Peter Holmes is kind of expensive to get started in.
And advanced.
It is more advanced for sure. I like David Hoffman's Holistic Herbal.
Holistic Herbal, yeah. Great.
Kind of gives you a little bit of everything really well,
Yeah. And any books that have really inspired you, that you've given away a lot? Anything that or comes to mind that's really moved you?
Of other people's, not really lately. The problem with this and me being, what I've had to be to do this school over the last 12 years is I have not read anything but reference for probably 15 years.
Got it.
I wish I could say I've read fiction. I love fiction. I love science fiction.
Well, not even fiction, but okay, good.
You're
just referencing your.
It's all reference stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much for spending time with me. And
sure. Yeah.
Again, where can people find you and your website?
Yeah. So the Human Path is thehumanpath.com, and our Herbal Medics is herbalmedics.academy. Our outreach organization is called Herbal Medics. It's herbalmedics.org. And you can always find me at sam@thehumanpath.com or Herbal Medics Sam on Instagram, or look look up the Human Path on YouTube or on Facebook, and we're all over the place there.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I would highly recommend any of Sam's courses, either online or in person. I think they're really top shelf. So this is David Bruce Leonard. Take care. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.